Hello, and welcome to today's lesson, the ACT writing test and how to attack it. The first thing you need to do is read the directions now, not on test day. You don't want to waste your time having to read directions. Make sure you understand these directions clearly, and if you need to, you can review them the night before the test. Our directions state that this is a test of your writing skills. You will have 40 minutes to read the prompt, plan your response, and write an essay in English. Before you begin working, read all material in this test booklet carefully to understand exactly what you are being asked to do. You will write your essay on the lined pages in the answer document provided. Your writing on those pages will be scored. You may use the unlined pages in this test booklet to plan your essay. Your work on these pages will not be scored. Your essay will be evaluated based on the evidence it provides of your ability to analyze and evaluate multiple perspectives on a complex issue, state and develop your own perspective on the issue, explain and support your ideas with logical reasoning and detailed examples, clearly and logically organize your ideas in an essay, effectively communicate your ideas in standard written English. Lay your pencil down immediately when time is called. Do not open this booklet until told to do so. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you get your questions asked and answered. Now, step 1 is to analyze the prompt and to isolate the pro and con arguments in it. Most of the released prompts have been the world is changing type of prompts. You need to read through the general prompt at the top and find the actual pro-con issue that they are trying to have you discuss in your essay. For example, here's our practice prompt. It's called the competitive spirit. There are many times in life when we are in competition with other people. Whether we are looking for a job or pursuing interests like sports, music, or drama, our success is often dependent on our ability to stand out from the crowd. However, some people do not like to compete or do not do their best in competitive environments. These people may be talented and driven, even if competition is not their nature. As the world becomes an increasingly competitive place, it is worth considering the value of a competitive spirit to an individual. What's the main controversy here, and what are the pro-con sides? Go ahead now, pause the video, and take some notes. See if you can figure out what the main issue is in this prompt. Then it asks for 3 perspectives. The ACT gives you 3 perspectives. You need to think about each perspective and whether you agree or disagree with each. The 3 perspectives tend to be, in no certain order, that the world is changing for the better. Another one is that the world is changing for the worse. And the third one, that the world is changing and there's both good and bad to it. For each perspective, you need to be able to label it and come up with a specific example. Let's say, for example, that you're talking about apps. If you in general say that there are apps for that and trying to prove your point, that is much too general. You need to give a specific app that you're talking about, like Twitter or Facebook, and then be detailed in what you're going to talk about with those apps. The more specific your examples are, the higher your grade will be on the essay. And if you noted in the directions, it even said that. Here are the 3 perspectives. As I'm reading them, think about what exactly is each perspective saying, and then you're to think of specific examples for each of these. Make sure again in your notes that you write down a specific example for each. Perspective 1 is that competition drives innovation and excellence. Learning to compete brings out the best in us. Perspective 2. People should be ready and willing to compete, but only with themselves. We better ourselves by setting and reaching our own goals, not by trying to beat other people. And perspective 3. When we focus on individual success, we do so to the detriment of other people. When people collaborate rather than compete, everybody wins. Again, at this time, if you pause the video, I want you to come up with a specific example to prove each one of these to be true. Now, it would be time to organize your essay. Your essay should begin with an introductory paragraph, not just your thesis statement. You actually have to put a small paragraph together to start your essay. Your last sentence of the introduction should be your thesis statement, and it should be stated outright and directly. I know that you can give a vague thesis at the beginning and shore it up at the end, and sometimes that makes a better paper. But for this ACT, you kind of want to follow the traditional model, and you want to make that thesis as clear as possible in your intro. Make sure that you follow that thesis throughout your paper. Body paragraphs should address each perspective. To get the highest grade in organization, do not organize these paragraphs based on the order that the ACT gives you. Instead, organize by the stance you are going to take. Make the order from the least you agree with to the one that you most agree with. If you do that with your organization and make it purposeful, you will get a higher grade on the ACT. Your conclusion should clearly wrap up your paper. It should address all three perspectives, but be clear with which you most agree. The perspective that you really side with needs to be made sure that it's clear that that's where you're going to stand. You don't want to hem and haw around this situation. Then finally, once you've read through those, there are some more ACT directions. This one says, essay task. Write a unified, coherent essay in which you evaluate multiple perspectives on the role of competition in life of any individual. In your essay, be sure to analyze and evaluate the perspective given, state and develop your own perspective on the issue, explain the relationship between you and your perspective and those given. Your perspective may be in full agreement with any of the others, in partial agreement, or wholly different. Whatever the case, support your ideas with logical reasoning and detailed, persuasive examples. There are even more ACT directions. It says planning your essay. Your work on these pre-writing pages will not be scored. Use the space below and on the back cover to generate ideas and plan your essay. You may wish to consider the following as you think critically about the task. Strengths and weaknesses of the three perspectives. What insights do they offer, and what do they fail to consider? Why might they be persuasive to others, or why might they fail to persuade? Your own knowledge, experience, and values. What is your perspective on this issue, and what are its strengths and weaknesses? How will you support your perspective in your essay? Tips. Use your time to plan your essay. 10 minutes is not too much. You have 40 minutes overall in which to write. Planning and having a attack mode going into this essay will keep your paper on purpose. You'll know where you're headed. You'll know what your examples are and what you're going to write about. And it is the most important piece to writing a good timed essay. Number 2, make sure to address all three perspectives. If you forget one, if you don't mention one, ACT will dock you for it. You are to mention all three perspectives. You don't have to agree with them all. You certainly shouldn't say that they're all equal. You have to pick the one you most wholeheartedly agree with, but you have to certainly address all three perspectives. And finally, the most important is include specific examples. The more generalized you are in your examples, the lower your score will be. If you just simply talk about going to school and going to work, and you don't talk about specific examples of what kind of school you're talking about or what kind of work you're talking about or whatever your detail is, you will be docked. Be specific. You don't have to have 10 specific examples. You just need to have one really good specific example. And that should do us today for your How to Attack the ACT Writing Prompt. Make sure that you've paused the video at those places and that you've done some thinking and planning, because then we will talk in groups about those issues.